My name is Guy Wolfenbarger. Uh, I was a tank commander in Bravo Company, 3rd Tanks. I was a Lance Corporal when I left Vietnam. Got there, left for Vietnam in December of 65 or 66, and was in country until a couple days before New Year's 68. New Vietnam was a teaching experience for me. I learned a lot about human beings, how they react. I think the most important thing I learned about Vietnam was that what you think about all day long changes your life later on in life. Listening to the war stories here at the reunion, it was interesting, brought back memories. But the key thing was being here with fellow tankers and enjoying their company, enjoying the hospitality of the Tank Association. And I haven't missed any reunions since the second one. Didn't know about the first organization or when they first started.
Wow.
And every reunion that I've been to, some of them have been outstanding, some of them have been good, but there's never been a bad one. Fellow Marines I served with, they're dwindling now. I'm 75, and we're all about the same age, or some a little older. Very few a little younger people I served with in Vietnam. But I was a section leader in flame tanks. Most of the activity I saw was road sweeps, resupply, Operation Buffalo. I unfortunately lost a tank, didn't lose any crew members, but I had a tank blow up on Operation Buffalo. So for a month I was without a tank, but I had seniority, and so I took one of the other flame tanks as a tank commander. My new tank come in, and it had everything that worked on it. Because sometimes you had to patch them up. A flame tank is 350 gallons of napalm. You mix the napalm by hand as a powder, and you mix it with JP4, and it becomes like a jelly. And it will stick to the wall, it'll stick to a tree, it'll stick to anything it hits. You have cylinders of air all the way around the perimeter in the tank. And the main 350 gallons is right in the center. The gunner is to the right, and he's way down there. And there's no room like there is in a gun tank. You're compacted very tightly. And the tank commander, which is the top elevation, and that's where all the radios are at, and a driver. The whole idea behind in Vietnam was if there was heavy infiltration and overrunning of the area that you were in, you could light your gun tube up with a shroud. It's a big ball of fire at the end of the gun tube, and that's what you shot the napalm through to get your direction. You only had 60 seconds, so you had to make sure you knew which way and how long. So normally, I'd only do 5 to 8 second burst on target. Or if we swept like a road, a couple times we got hit with snipers going down a road, and the gun tank in front of me, because I always had 2 gun tanks with me, and we were on a convoy resupply to the rock pile. and the tank commander said, light it up on the right side. And so that's swung over there. The only trouble about doing that, the wind was blowing from that direction also, so we got a lot of smoke coming our way back at us, but we were kind of used to that.
How far does the flame project?
If it's a good load of napalm, you can get 100 yards out of it real easy. After you had a couple loads of napalm mixed up and fired off, we'd usually put a load of diesel fuel in. And the diesel fuel would, as you went down the road, would gel around and break the napalm loose. So then you had a little longer range almost with the diesel fuel. And what we would do a lot of times is start fire a dry rod, in other words, it wouldn't be lit. And as soon as it got out maybe 50 yards to where you were headed with it, then you'd light it. And you'd have this big stream of fire following the diesel fuel. Being a tank commander in flame tanks, you're like the red-headed stepchild. Nobody wants you around until they need you. But it was really a true experience. Like I said, on Operation Buffalo, I lost a tank, and then there's a book called Ambush Valley, and that was it's worth reading. It tells about Marines, how they were overrun. We were up against a whole regiment of NVA, and there's just 4 companies of Marines, and so we were outnumbered quite a bit. And the first night we lost one tank, a gun tank, and then he had pulled down into a rice paddy and got shot in the engine compartment. Well, it was an area I had been in quite a bit, and I was up on a ridge, and a new lieutenant as a tank leader there in gun tanks. And I said, I got a clear shot, I can light up the area. And he had no idea what a flame tank would do. So he said no. So he wanted me to pull down into the rice paddy, which he was already stuck in, and another tank had went down there. And so as the night went on, I backed down into the rice paddy, and we had a lot of incoming. The next morning, we pulled that tank and all the KIAs out, and everybody that was wounded back to an LZ. 2 days later, we were run up against the same regiment of NVA, and they were waiting for us, and we lost a gun tank on that operation, and it was up on the ridge above me, and I was down taking care of a rice paddy that was full of NVA coming across. They knew we were coming. We knew they were there, but we had no idea the volume of people we were up against, because we thought maybe it was a couple companies, the NVA, that had been bothering us the day before, because they never hit us completely. But they were, on this mountainside, they decided to send everything after us. I got hit by 3 or 4 RPGs into the turret, which exploded the napalm, because we had the system set up to fire. My gunner got out almost past me getting out of the tank. It's a tight squeeze, but I was trying to get my mic cord undone with my helmet on and grab something, and by that time we were getting a lot of small arms fire. My driver got out, the corpsman took the driver out, and we spent the next few hours trying to get back to the CP up on top of the ridge behind us.
On foot?
Crawling, being very close, 15, 20 feet, we were sort of hidden in a bomb crater from the NVA passing us. We spent that night on top of the ridge, and they had all kind of air support come in. Puff came in, which is the Gatling guns on a airplane, and sweep the area, and all kind of illumination. The next morning, the gun tank was still running that had been hit up on the hill, and the driver managed to get it back down the hill. And Louis Rao, he did everything he could to bring the tank into safety, but it was just we were getting so much incoming. So we went up the top of the hill. The next morning, they decided we should take that running tank out of there. So Louis drove it out. I got in the TC's hatch, and we DD'd up the hill and over. Alpha Company had sent a platoon out to relieve us and bring us back in of tanks. And Louis and I said, we're not sitting around here any longer, and we just took off, went back up to Camp Carroll. We didn't slow down until we got inside the interior. And there's a photo I have, was taken by a UPI guy. It was sent to my mother, and with a wire, and it said, "Tanks for the memory." And it had me sitting there with showing a RPG round where it went into the turret of the gun tank. After that, things were pretty quiet. Did a lot of road sweeps. Fortunately, my orders were in, and I left before the Tet Offensive. Come back to the States, and now I spend a lot of time with working with the disabled American veterans and a couple other groups in Columbus, Ohio, where I'm from, and trying to help them, because we didn't get the recognition when we come back to the States of what it had done to us mentally. And so there was a lot of help needed for guys that saw a lot of combat. But I'm happy that I could say I'm here after 50 years ago. It's enjoyable just to sit down with fellow tankers and hear their war stories. And every reunion we have, their war stories change. They get a little more vivid and a little more detail that you're saying, I remember you didn't say that before. But I've enjoyed being here, and I want to say thanks to all of my fellow tankers for being here and for the recognition that we get from the public now.
So how old were you when you were in country?
21.
21. How old was that, the average age of most of the people you were around?
Yeah. They run a lot of us through boot camp, ITR training, and then they wanted to get us over there to get shot at as quickly as they could. So a lot of guys had been drafted, 2-year draft. They weren't draft dodgers; they were draftees, and a lot of them were so short on time because the time they got training and schooling and got over there, they only had like a month or two left in country of their 2-year enlistment, and then they were out as soon as they went home. But the Marine Corps has done away with any tracked vehicles, which tankers don't like it very well. Army still has tanks, but the commandant of the Marine Corps at that time decided we didn't need tanks anymore. But if you look at the war we have today, one thing they're wanting is more tanks, more tracked vehicles. So that's some of the new landing craft and stuff that they have coming on board for the Marine Corps is making it lighter and quicker, but it's all amphibious, getting off of the ship and taking it to shore.
Were you drafted or did you sign up?
I was in college, and I dropped a couple of courses because I was working full time to put myself through college, and I got my induction papers in Chicago, where I was going to school in Kankakee, Illinois, and the gentleman that I was dating, his daughter, was a tanker, a Marine tanker in Korea. He said, "You don't want to march. Get in tanks. You never have to march again." And so I joined the Marine Corps rather than being drafted into something. And when I joined and started going through ITR to boot camp, they wanted you to re-list. I had joined as a 2-year active reservist, and they said, what would you like to do? And I said, I want to be a tanker. They said, we have tracked vehicle school. So I went to tracked vehicle school, and I enjoyed it. But the test in the beginning was, I didn't want to be in an ontos with a landing craft, so you had to swim one end of the pool to the other. I almost drowned 3 times, and they accused me of not knowing how to swim or faking it. I said, I don't know, I just can't do it. So they put me in tanks, and then I spent 6 months at Camp Del Mar on the ramp as a permanent personnel in tanks, and then went right straight to Vietnam. But it was the old Corps, not the Marine Corps that we have today. Is totally different as far as how you're treated and what goes on. Excuse me. It's totally different. I enjoy probably the being in the Marine Corps. I wouldn't be what I am today or where I'm at in life. I make my decision based on my training and what I had in Vietnam and the Marine Corps. That it just has made me what I am today. Self-employed, tried to retire a couple times, but I was a failure at that, so I'm still working because I want to. But the Marine Corps, I tried to get my grandson to join the Marine Corps, and he didn't like the recruiter, so he joined the Army. But after he was in the Army and then Korea for 1.5 years, he said, I should have went in the Marine Corps. And anyway, that's my story.
Well, thank you so much for sharing it, and thank you for your service.
Anything I can do to help a fellow Marine, sign me up.